time limit, making their way down to somewhere in the ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Somewhere in the Ring. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Sprague, and I'm coming to you from Scotland. That's right, I am finally back home in the UK after having spent the last month and a half in Nova Scotia, New Scotland. But I'm back home here in Old Scotland and ready to bring you guys my recap and review of WWE Crown Jewel. We will have a very special guest coming to you later in the show to give their mini review as well. But I want to apologize for the quality of my audio before we go any further. I am recording this on my iPhone as my microphone is not working too well these days. I think it's all the travel and stuff. So I might have to invest in a new microphone. You can help with that as well by joining our Patreon campaign, where all of your support goes back into making the show bigger and better for Andrew and I, and that includes equipment. So you can join at patreon.com/somewhereintheringpodcast. There is a link in the show notes as well to learn more how you can support us and get rewards in return. But let's do it, guys. Let's hop into my review of WWE Crown Jewel that came to us from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia this past weekend. And we kicked things off with a heck of an opening match. This has to be one of the first times in a very long time that Roman Reigns was in an opening match and not a main event. But my God, did this feel like a main event. We had basically the old Bloodline versus the new Bloodline. And this is how they decided to open Crown Jewel, a civil war of sorts. And it was basically a six-man tag team match. Tonga Loa was not part of the bout, but he was still present for the new Bloodline. So everyone made their entrances. This was interesting. Roman Reigns made his entrance with Jimmy Uso, but Jay got his own entrance, thus showing that he really has stepped out of the shadow of the Bloodline, out of the shadow of Roman Reigns, and has become his own man as he is trying to prove to Roman Reigns, we are equals. I do not work under you or for you any longer. But they did team up for this match. So bell rang, Jay and Thomas started for their teams and took their time, kind of taunting each other in between moves. Jimmy got the first tag of the match and the first tag between the Usos in almost 18 months, if you can believe that. But he only scored a 2 count. When Reigns asked for a tag, Jay tagged his brother instead. So the signs of friction were really beginning to show as Sikoa was then tagged in. The contest was in line with most of what we've seen from the Bloodline since its inception. This wasn't a work rate match with the best sort of like chain wrestling or most dangerous moves, but it was a really good match. It was more about the story that they were telling with it. It's definitely like sports entertainment at its best. However, we don't want to take anything away from the 6 competitors in the ring. Everyone put forth a great effort to make this fun, but it would be a lie to say that it was the most action-packed or competitive of any PLE. It definitely wasn't. But all that being said, it played out exactly the way it needed to. The new Bloodline was cohesive, while the original Bloodline dealt with communication and trust issues. The OTC, the Street Champ, was tagged in finally and started trading punches with Sikoa. Both men survived each other's best shots, but it was Sikoa who emerged as the victor after taking out Reigns with 3 Samoan spikes. Sikoa and his crew continued to assault Reigns and the Usos after the match was over. And then, whose music hits but Sami Zayn? And he marched his way down to the ring. The crowd went nuts. I should say this Saudi Arabia crowd was amazing. You know, I think when the Saudi events first started, it was a lot of, like, super rich dignitaries, royalty, political figures, whatnot, who were attending these events. Very surface level, very business oriented. And don't get me wrong, this entire event is nothing but business. It's disgustingly transparent how much the WWE has bowed to Saudi Arabia. That's a discussion for another time. But you could tell now at these events that these are actual, true fans in Saudi Arabia of the WWE. And they were just going nuts for these guys. And when Sami Zayn's music hit, they went crazy. So basically, Sami came down to the ring, and Solo Sikoa held out his arms for a hug and wanted Zayn to join him. But didn't happen. Zayn unleashed an exploder suplex instead on Sikoa. It was amazing. Zayn ended up accidentally kicking Roman Reigns when Sikoa avoided the hit. Jay, Jimmy, and Zayn argued while Roman Reigns tried to recover and looked confused and very, very upset in the ring. And yeah, that was kind of it for the first match of the night. Really good match. Solo Sikoa did amazing. He is really, really growing on me. I thought he did a great job. Jay was awesome as usual. Jacob Fatu. I love you, Solo. I love you. Oh, man. He's just incredible. He was intense throughout the whole match. Great, great match. I give this match a B+ to open Crown Jewel. Let's move on to our fatal 4-way match for the women. This was Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill versus Jackson and Legend versus Io Sky and Kairi Sane versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. And the women's tag titles were up for grabs in this match. Belair and Cargill came into this bout as the champions, but had the odds stacked against them. EST of WWE and the Genius of the Sky began the match, but anyone from any team could tag in at any time. So they were trying to avoid the corners that didn't contain their own teammates. Io Sky got a little too close and Green tagged herself in. From this point, the match was a series of quick tags and exchanges from all four teams. Very well done. Very well choreographed. Everything was brutal. It was awesome. We did see a few botched moves, but most of what these performers did looked really good. Jade Cargill and Legend were especially stiff with some of their strikes, and it made for great sequences overall, but they looked like they really hurt each other. So make of that what you will. As always, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven stood out because of their hilarious antics, but it's safe to say all four teams came from this looking very good. The crowd was very into it, and the final sequence had a few hiccups, but Belair and Cargill were able to retain the titles by taking out Niven with their finisher. And, yeah, that was pretty much it for this match. Jade Cargill and Belair retained. Yeah, it was good, but there were a lot of botches, unfortunately. So I'm going to give this one a B-. We move on next to a brutal bout between Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed. Reed and Rollins fought in an unsanctioned match, and this was rough. Rollins was his usual jovial self during his entrance, and Reed had his usual look of disdain as he walked to the ring, but they didn't even make it halfway before Rollins met him on the ramp to begin fighting. Rollins used his speed to keep the big man on the defense, but he gave Reed too much time to recover and ended up being thrown over the barricade into an office chair in the timekeeper's area. They finally got to the ring. The bell rang to make it official. These guys were just wailing on each other. Whew, man. It was a singles match in a big event that really, really could have been a main event, in my opinion. That's how brutal it was and how good these guys were doing. Reed looked like a monster for most of the match and was able to defend himself against a bunch of Rollins' biggest moves. And the crowd was eating up every second of it. At some points, it did feel like Riyadh crowd favored Bronson Reed over Seth Rollins, which did not see that coming. Wow. Even with the Rollins having a lot more experience, they did a good job of making him feel like the underdog against this massive beast of Bronson Reed. Rollins hit several stomps, including one from the top rope, to finally put Reed away and get the win. A lot of fun. Really, really a lot of fun. One of my favorite moments was at the end of the match. Bronson Reed had blood dripping down his face, and he looked crazy. Even after the match, he said, "Get back in the ring. I'm not done. I don't care if the match is over. I want to draw blood on you." He looked crazy, and Rollins looked uncomfortable. He's like, "This guy's insane. Like, it's over. It's over." But it's clearly not over. I don't think we've seen the last of these guys. I do give this match a B. Just a B. Just a B on this one. It was good, but yeah. Yeah, not my favorite of the night. We'll get to that. Next up, we had Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax, champion versus champion, to crown the first ever Crown Jewel champion for the title belt. This is the first of two Crown Jewel championship matches of the night. Morgan exploded out of the gate with a dropkick as soon as the ref called for the bell. She was not messing around. She tried to bring the fight to Jax, but found herself on the mat after a headbutt. This is booked as a usual underdog versus monster match, which, we saw coming. No one really wanted to see this match, but once it got going, it was pretty good. Both women, it's interesting too, because both of them are heels, so the crowd didn't seem to really favor one over the other at first, but Morgan quickly gained favor by fighting from underneath. And of course, it's Tiffy time. Tiffy Stratton ran down with her Money in the Bank briefcase, and Jax tried to tell her it wasn't the right time. Tiffy was told to leave, but she had a change of heart. And then Raquel Rodriguez tried to stop her from cashing in, and the distraction allowed Jax to take out both women and her opponent at ringside. Dominic Mysterio tried to slide the briefcase in, and when the ref went to remove it, Rodriguez shoved Jax over the top rope. Morgan used the opportunity to hit her finisher for the pin and the win. I don't know. We'll get to my grade in a second. So Triple H, he came out to present a tearful Liv Morgan with the belt. She was very emotional when she won this, which was interesting. Kind of made her a bit of a baby face there. It was a decent match that was a little overbooked on the end of it, but Morgan winning was the right way to go, in my personal opinion. Stratton cashing in on Jax would have been a great way to end it, but giving Morgan her moment, it made sense. She's just having the year of her career right now. So yeah, unfortunately, again, match was a little overbooked. Raquel Rodriguez continues to just flounder. Is that a word? Flounder. How about flounder? Wow, guys. So sorry. I'm still jet lagged from traveling. So I'm going to give this match a C+. Unfortunately, it's probably one of the weakest of the night. I hate to say it. But moving on to our next match. I wouldn't even call this a match. But it was Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. Owens, man. He's just like turning dead up heel at this point. Prize fighter. Let me see here. Sorry, guys, I'm looking at my notes here. KO came out, Randy came out, but match never even started. The match never even started. Orton posed on the middle turnbuckle during his entrance, and they cheered so long and sang Randy Orton's music so long in this. It's insane. Saudi Arabia loves the Viper. That's for damn sure. This crowd was just electric. I have to give them that. So when Randy went to make his entrance, Owens attacked him from behind with a steel chair to the knee. And as we all know, Viper's got a bad knee. Randy did fight back before he could be powerbombed onto the announce table and dropped KO onto his head instead. The ref took the chair from Owens and ended up taking a stunner for his troubles. That's right, KO stunned the ref. Randy Orton fought back with the chair as officials ran down to try to stop them. Commentator Michael Cole said officials waved off the match as they continued to fight and attack anyone who tried to stop them. Randy Orton delivered an RKO to Raw GM Adam Pearce before they fought into the crowd. Owens put Orton through some tables with a flying elbow drop to finally end this scuffle. It was a fun fight and a good way to keep the feud going without anyone needing to take a loss. WWE doesn't do this kind of thing often at PLEs, so it feels like it was done at the right time for the right feud. This ended in a no contest. I'm going to give this a B+. It was really good. I really, really like this. Moving on to our next match, we had L.A. Knight versus Andrade and Carmelo Hayes in a triple threat match. And Knight was defending first title. Match came about after Knight prevented Melo and El Idolo from settling their feud with a seventh match. So SmackDown GM Nick Aldis booked him to put the belt on the line as punishment for preventing a proper finish to the series. All three men started fighting as soon as the bell rang. LA Knight was super kicked out of the ring by both opponents, leaving Hayes and Andrade to duke it out. It was a fantastic display of different wrestling styles from three talented competitors. From a pure in-ring perspective, it was probably one of the best matches of the night, to be completely honest. So it was good. It was good. Triple threats can often feel like they're kind of glorified singles bouts, in which one person's isolated with two fighting for most of the time. But this was not that. This truly was a triple threat match. I will give them that. Other than a few short moments, all three men were involved in almost all the action, which made for a much more exciting contest. Knight did retain his title by hitting his finisher to both men at the same time and pinning Carmelo Hayes. And Knight defeated Andrade and Hayes, and I give this match an A-. Fantastic match. How you guys feeling about LA Knight? How do you think his run is going? I'm just curious. Let us know. Either on our Facebook page, on Twitter, on Instagram. I want to know how you guys are feeling about LA Knight's title run so far. I was a huge mark for him. Don't know how I feel right now about him. Anyways, let's move on to our next Crown Jewel title championship match. And this would be our main event of the night, guys. Gunther versus Cody Rhodes. Man, this crowd went nuts for Cody Rhodes. I can't believe how behind him they were. Insane. So they both make their entrances. They were slow to lock up, circle each other as the crowd chanted on and off, and made them pause for a moment to take it all in before finally getting going with an exchange of wrist locks. The Ring General out-wrestled the American Nightmare for a few minutes as they kept it simple, focused more on grappling than anything else. But once they upped the intensity, both men started to take more risks and go for bigger impacts. And Cody Rhodes tried everything to combat Gunther's brutal style and seemed to come up short at every turn. In many ways, this felt like a throwback. They weren't doing many flashy moves or trying to cheat left and right. They were just two accomplished wrestlers fighting to see who was the best. This really did harken back to, like, the golden era when we did have Clash of Champions and stuff like that. Just pure good wrestling, not a lot of antics. I mean, you never see many antics from either of these guys anyways, and we knew going into this that it would be an incredible match. No matter what you think of the Crown Jewel titles and how arbitrary or worthless or useless it is, they really did their best to make this something special. I will give them that. Let's see here. The American Nightmare began to show signs of life after spending several minutes being punished by the ring general. He was able to counter a sleeper by rolling back into a pin. And let's just say it. I mean, Gunther, his objective here was to choke out Cody, just like he did Randy Orton. And that was the way that he said, I will win this match. No doubt in my mind, I will win this match by a chokeout. That did not happen. Did not happen. Rhodes got one over him this time and rolled him over and pinned him. And this wasn't like because he outdid him wrestling-wise. It was a quick 1-2-3 that Cody just happened to get, which really made neither of these men bigger, stronger, more agile, more accomplished than the other. It just so happened that Cody was able to roll him up and get a pin. And Gunther was not too happy. Definitely was not too happy about losing that way. But in typical Gunther fashion, even as a heel, he knows to respect his opponent when they win. And he shook Cody's hand. Once again, Triple H came out and gave the new title to Cody. And this was interesting. Liv Morgan came back into the ring. A couple, I think they were like dignitaries or something from Saudi Arabia, came in the ring and presented the title belts to Liv Morgan and Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes and Liv Morgan shook hands, congratulated one another, and then went to each corner for the crowd to celebrate with them, as they are our first ever, and hopefully last ever, but first ever Crown Jewel champions. I will give them this. The title belts look amazing. This is interesting. I didn't know this. Maybe you guys did. But the title belts will remain in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. They will be held on display there, and they will stay there until next year for the next Crown Jewel. What Liv Morgan and Cody Rhodes actually take home are rings, almost like a Super Bowl ring. So that was interesting. So we got to see them put the rings on and all that, celebrate as fireworks went off, and Crown Jewel ended. Yeah, it's tough, guys. It's tough. You know, we are a wrestling podcast, so we try to cover every major PLE of WWE when we can, and I'm going to be honest, it's not easy reviewing these shows because of how sports washed Saudi Arabia is right now, and how this is nothing but a money thing to the WWE, which their business, everything is money to them, I know. But a lot of people have a lot of reasons for not watching or supporting this event. Our co-host Andrew specifically, and I just want to say this off the bat, I respect the hell out of Andrew for taking that stance, and you should too. I think it's a very noble thing to do. But you know, one of us had to had to do it, so I guess it was me. But I am not going to be the last to talk to you about Crown Jewel. I'm going to turn it over right now to our special guest. You guys know her. You guys love her. That's right. We are going to hear from Brie from the BRIESBE YouTube channel, and she is going to give us her review of Crown Jewel 2024. So give this a listen, and I'll see you on the other side. Here's Brie.
Hello, hello, somewhere in the ring, podcast listeners, watchers, wherever you are. My name is BRIESBE. I'm just some lady that they keep having me back on the show. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me in this form. I heard Ryan was a little bit under the weather, so I said, hey, I can help out for sure. I'm just going to send in my thoughts. So that's what we're doing. We're going to talk a little bit about Crown Jewel. I'm going to help out with this review here, this little debrief. And I thought it was great. I'm going to be real. I'm super easy to please. I think people probably get that vibe from me at this point as a newbie. I've been called out for it a couple times. But I really enjoyed it. There were like no misses for me in this one. I did have a few like preconceived notions based on what I had heard and read about Saudi shows, specifically, especially the fact that like women hadn't been able to wrestle up until fairly recently from what I've heard. So I kind of had this notion that it was going to be like really restrictive and like the women weren't going to get to do all the things they wanted to do and they couldn't wear the things they wanted to wear. And so I kind of went in with this biased mindset thinking it wasn't going to be a good show. And I was pleasantly surprised. I think, yes, it was interesting that like, you know, they can't show skin or they can't like, you know, Dom and Liv couldn't be all over each other, right? I think that was definitely a different dynamic, but not an unwelcome one in the sense where it felt oppressive. I think WWE kind of managed to circumvent that and, you know, like the fashion was still fashionable and all that stuff. It wasn't half as noticeable and oppressive as I thought it was going to be. So I kind of fell out of that pretty quick and just fell into the normal, like enjoying the PLE and the drama of it. So I ended up really liking it. I can give you some thoughts on each of my matches, each of the matches that went on. They're not my matches. I didn't put them on, but so the first match, I think the Bloodline story is in such a fun place right now. I think they've got this really interesting dynamic where the OG Bloodline is back together, but they're sort of a mess. Like nothing is cohesive. They don't really trust each other fully. It's like watching a deer learn to walk, like a baby deer. Like they're just not coordinated yet. I think it's in a cool place for the story. I like where we're at right now. And fun fact, I'm going to be at my very first live WWE event this Friday. I'm going to SmackDown, and all of my fingers and toes are crossed because I am praying that I get to see the return of Paul Heyman live. I will lose. I will be over the moon if that happens. I'll be so excited. So yes, love the outcome of that one. I think it's only up. I think they're doing interesting places with the Bloodline. They're doing interesting places. I think they're doing interesting things with the Bloodline story right now, so I'm super excited to see where that goes. Fatal 4-way match. That was my match of the night. I'm a little bit biased. I tend to love the women's matches more than anything, especially anything with Io and Bianca. I think those two are a match made in heaven. I would love to see more things. I would love to see them as a tag team. I don't know how we get to make that happen, but I think they would be just fantastic as a tag team. Somehow, make it happen. Anyway, they're great together. I love Piper. I love Chelsea. Okay, anything with Chelsea Green in there, that's my favorite thing. She's just so funny. She balances everything out with the comedic relief. Like, I can't imagine not liking Chelsea Green. And I can't wait for the day she eventually gets a title. She doesn't need one. I just think I think the pop would be insane. Like, the crowd would go wild for Chelsea getting a title. Anyway, besides the point, this match was super fun. One small botch, I bet Ryan's gonna mention it. I'm just predicting what I think Ryan's gonna say since we're not face to face. But other than, I mean, it was fine, right? Like, it's gonna happen. So love that match. Thought it was great. Bronson and Seth. This feud's super fun. I do sort of watch Seth like he's got glass bones and paper skin because I know he's been injured a lot. And I feel like everyone I was watching with kind of was going with that vibe too, where they were like, oh, Seth, be really careful, dude. Like, you gotta be so careful. And I would love to see him more in the ring. I really haven't seen him a ton since WrestleMania because of various injuries. But I love his energy, and I love his character, and he just seems like a really cool dude. And I really like Bronson Reed. He's awesome. He's a beast. I'm excited to see whatever he does next. It seems like this thing with Seth is going to continue, so like looking forward to that. But yeah, I don't have any complaints about this match either. I'm easy to please, but I thought it was really good. Liv and Nia, I actually ended up liking this match more than I thought. I think in the past I've had a hard time getting into Nia a little bit. She's just not as compelling for me. And I was afraid that this was going to be another, like, oh, just like throw Liv around like she's a sack of potatoes. But I do appreciate the fact that Liv kind of stood on her own for a decent amount of time. There was pretty minimal help from Raquel and Dominic in this one, which I thought was great. I'm happy she won. I think my only complaint about this, and I'm almost going to guarantee Ryan's going to say something, I think it was too short. Maybe? Ryan, agree? Are you going to say something about that? I don't know. I think this match was like a little bit rushed or just like too short. The pacing was strange. I don't know. I liked it. I love that Liv won. I think she absolutely deserved that. And I like, as much as I love Rhea Ripley, like I'm thrilled to see Liv just in this champion loop that she's in right now. So, but yeah, I just thought it was a little short. So I would say that takes off a few points for me, but otherwise, still, I loved it. I still loved it, just like everything else. Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. I loved that this wasn't even a match at all. It was so messy. It was so dramatic. It was. I loved it. I loved it. They will never make me hate Kevin Owens, and he is going to play this paranoid. He already is playing this paranoid, unhinged character so well, but he hasn't reached the peak. Like, we're just getting started. He's accusing people of like hiring dune buggy drivers and like like paranoid that the medics and the trainers are against him. The whole storyline of Kevin and Randy and Cody right now, and the stuff they're doing, like relying on the fans to catch Kevin and Cody by the tour bus and not even televising that whole like heel turn. This is so much fun. This is something I haven't gotten to see in wrestling yet. It's just this sort of like creative marketing they've got going on. Super fun. Looking forward to seeing where all of this goes. And I just want to give huge props to Eddie, the referee, for that sell, because that was amazing. But this non-match was super fun. I would have loved to see them beat the crap out of each other a little bit longer, but that's just me. I just want more wrestling. So, love that one. LA Knight, Carmelo Hayes, and Andrade. This was probably my runner-up for match of the night. I'm a sucker for acrobatics and wild stunts, if you couldn't tell. Andrade doing the fake out backflip where it looked like he was going to front flip and then he backflipped onto LA Knight. That was wild. Carmelo has got so many moves in his move set, if you will, that are so impressive to me. LA Knight is an amazing athlete. Like, the three of them together are just so fun. And I really didn't think LA was going to retain. I'm glad that he did. But I really thought this was going to go to Andrade. But I don't know where they would go from the story or with the story from there. So interested to see who ends up dethroning him out of either those two or maybe a third challenger. I don't really know where they're going to go. But really loved this match. Nonstop action, entertainment. It was really good. And last but certainly not least, my two big meaty men slapping meat. We got Cody and Gunther. I don't have any complaints about this one either. Obviously, I don't know if you were getting the vibe throughout this. I'm not going to have complaints. I was very easy to please with this one. This was great. I actually thought Gunther was going to win. I can totally see why it makes sense to have Cody as the champion of all things. We did notice when we were watching, it's interesting to see anyone who ends up in the ring with Gunther really takes on his grappling style. it's cool to see people just sort of, he brings them down to that level. Not down, but, you know, he brings them to his level, which I find fascinating, because that, I don't think I've seen that happen with every set of wrestlers that like comes up against each other. But he's just wonderful. I love seeing him in the ring. I love Cody. I two big meaty men slapping me. I was happy. That's all I want. I want my two big meaty men slapping me. So that was pretty much my thoughts on Crown Jewel. I give it an A, or I suppose an A+. I don't know. I feel like Rhea Ripley wasn't there, so I can't give it an A+ for sure. But I give it a solid straight A, and I think it deserves it. I think Cody and Liv, it makes sense for the two of them to be the champions of this whole thing. So, awesome PLE. I enjoyed it. I'm super excited for the next one. I'm super excited for SmackDown this Friday. I'll have to let everyone know how it goes. But hey, Somewhere in the Ring, thank you so much for having me on in some capacity. Ryan, I hope you feel better, and you can use as much or none of this as you want. Hopefully I'll see y'all in another episode. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
And there it is, guys. That is Brie from BRIESBE's YouTube channel giving us her review of Crown Jewel. Brie, I am so sorry that Rhea was not there. Oh, I hope she's okay. God, I hope she's okay. That girl is going through way too many injuries. Sending our best to Rhea Ripley. I hope she can get back into the ring. Hopefully by Survivor Series. We'll see. Maybe Royal Rumble. But again, a very, very special thanks to Brie for joining us once again and doing this. I wasn't able to connect with her as I am horribly jet-lagged, a little sick, and yeah, so I want to thank her for sending in her review of Crown Jewel. But that's going to do it, guys. I give Crown Jewel 2024 an overall grade of B. It was a just above average PLE. Many call the Crown Jewel shows a glorified house show. I think they went above and beyond this time, and it was a little bit more than that. Having the new titles definitely helped. It was interesting the way it all played out. How much it will actually play into anything moving forward, I don't know. By the time you hear this, Monday Night Raw will have happened, so we'll see if there was any talk of Crown Jewel on Monday Night Raw. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of Crown Jewel. If you watched it, let us know in the comments over on our Facebook group. Just search for Somewhere in the Ring Podcast. Or you can tweet at us at Some Ring Pod. We're on Instagram at Somewhere Ring Pod. Wow, I just did a hiccup there. I'm talking too quickly. I apologize. And yeah, guys, if you want to help out the show and support us, you can do that on Patreon. All the links to our Patreon, our social media, and everything in between is in the show notes as well. Be sure to check out Andrew's short film, Pay the Tithe, which has a link in the show notes. But other than that, you can catch me on the Somewhere in the Skies podcast as well every Monday. And you can find that at somewhereintheskies.com or wherever you get Somewhere in the Ring. Do us a huge, big, massive, gigantic, huge favor, guys. Please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. We are a budding wrestling podcast, and we are the underdog. Trust me, there are so many wrestling podcasts out there, and we are just trying to get our name out there and get seen and heard by as many people as possible. And the only way we can do that is with ratings and reviews. They mean the world to us, and they take just a couple minutes. So go over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and review. Go to Spotify. You can rate us over there as well. It all helps. If there's any other podcast apps you listen to the show on and there's an option to rate and review, please do that as well. Help us grow, and in return, we will make the show bigger and better for you guys as well. We've got an awesome episode coming to you next week with an actor from Stranger Things. So be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout for further episodes of the show moving forward as we head into Survivor Series War Games at the end of November. That's going to do it, guys. Thank you once again for joining me today for a review of Crown Jewel, and we will see you next week somewhere in the ring. Oh yeah, ding ding.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, somewhere in the ring.